MPs and party members wondering what's next after the Liberals' shocking defeat in Toronto St. Paul's this week. The Prime Minister has responded, saying he hears voters, quotes, concerns and frustrations, and he's vowing to keep working to address them.
These are not easy times, and it's clear that I and my entire Liberal team have much more work to do to deliver tangible, real progress that Canadians across the country can see and feel.
Trudeau's leadership after 9 years or so has been under question. Will the voices wondering if he should step aside get louder now that they have lost a key stronghold? For more this morning, we are joined by political analyst and associate professor at the Department of Economics, Justice and Policy Studies at Mount Royal University, Laurie Williams. Good to have you back this morning.
It's great to be with you.
MP Karina Gold yesterday telling CTV News chief political correspondent Vashi Kapelos that the party needs to, quote, regroup. What could the conversations be like in the Prime Minister's inner circle right now, Laurie?
Well, within the inner circle, I think they're just talking about what they can do to perhaps improve things. It's clear that they're hoping that some of these policies will move the polls a bit more than they've sort of nudged them up until this point, hoping that inflation will get better, that the economy will improve, and that Canadians will see the benefits of the policies that they have on offer by contrast to those provided by the Conservatives. But the voices from within the caucus, I think, are going to be increasingly concerned. And I think there'll be a lot of folks that are considering whether a new leader could do a better job in the next election than Mr. Trudeau can do now.
Yeah, these are MPs who want to be re-elected when we have another election. The Liberals were hoping, as you mentioned, April's budget would maybe give a boost to the party's support. There was money in there for housing. There's been pharmacare and dental care. These don't seem to be sticking. What cards are left for Trudeau to play, and would voters even listen if it's him at the helm?
And that's the problem. I mean, I actually on social media and in some interviews that I saw done in that actual riding, where people were saying, well, you know, I have voted Liberal, I'd like to vote Liberal, but Trudeau. And that, if that is a common sort of sentiment, then I think it becomes very difficult for the Liberals to do anything to win voters, simply because, you know, as other polls have shown, 68% of Canadians think it's time for him to step aside, and that's a really difficult thing to resist. On the other hand, it's not clear that any particular other individual could boost their fortunes. Recent polls showed that the other sort of common candidates considered, including those who are not in cabinet currently, like Mark Carney, polling is indicating that they would do worse than Justin Trudeau in the next election. So there's a lot of really careful strategizing that's going to have to be done to try to just minimize the loss, to actually gain back some of the support that they've lost at this stage. Looks like a really tall order. Well,
I guess the other question then to ask, you know, people who maybe have thought of putting their names forward or people who to bring in is, do they even want to lead this party? If there's a chance now that they might not even form government?
Yeah, I've read a couple of columns that have questioned the judgment of anybody who might want to take this on at this stage of the game. Again, it's a difficult thing, and we're still a fair distance from the next election. A lot can happen between now and then, but it's hard to imagine what would make up a 20-point deficit. Mm-hmm. And particularly looking at what's happening in the safe riding. Yes, it's a by-election, and people don't necessarily vote during a by-election as they would otherwise. They know they're only changing one seat and not an entire government. But this is really sobering news for not just Justin Trudeau, but those who might be trying to run for seats in the next election.
Well, and as you say, Laurie, this is not an isolated event. This comes on top of being at the most 20 points behind in the polls. You know, we've watched this, Laurie, in other elections. Voters sometimes choose a party based on who they don't want leading the country. So, you know, we've seen Mr. Poilievre undergo an image change. There's a lot of T-shirts, there's a lot of vacations and chatting with voters. But we don't really know, other than sort of stop or axe the tax and stop the crime, what he stands for. How could that affect his leadership chances and in this upcoming election?
Yeah, so at this point, the campaign and the slogans coming from the Conservatives have been very effective at calling into question Justin Trudeau and the Liberals in terms of their plans for the future. That's pretty abstract at this stage in terms of what the Conservatives would do. And as attention starts to shift away from what people don't like to what the alternatives are, that's when things could get more challenging for Mr. Poilievre, especially given his favorability numbers are really quite low as well. So that sort of suggests that there might be room for, let's say, a new leader, somebody who represents a credible alternative, more positive alternative, perhaps somebody more distant from the Liberal record, could actually have a lot more credibility and popularity than Mr. Poilievre. This isn't like a very popular leader, sort of attracting people to a different vision for the future. This is somebody who's been essentially a critic. And as people start to turn their attention more closely to Mr. Poilievre, that might be a bit more of a difficult challenge for the Conservatives as well.
You might see some of those numbers come down a little bit as the scrutiny increases. Who knows? We're going to have to wait and watch and see how this one plays out. Lori Williams, thanks for getting up early for us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.